Welcome to another episode of Charge the Line with your host Roger Narvaez and my good friend Tony Perez. T, what's going on, man? How's your day going so far?
So far, pretty good.
Already crushing it on a Sunday. Killed the workout out here.
I don't know if I killed it. I did a workout. It was kind of one of those ones where it's just like kind of a grind just to get through with it. But Sunday morning, so I just wanted to get something done.
That's interesting you say that, because sometimes I was just telling the guys, like, not every day has to be one of those, like, you know, oh, I did badass, or I killed myself. It's like sometimes just showing up and getting that workout in for the day is the win in itself, right?
Just getting it done. Like kind of like even in the middle of it, I was sometimes I'll start and it's I can tell it's not going to be the best or whatever, and so I was like, well, I'll just stick with it. It'll get better, right? Sometimes they're the best ones at the end of the day. But this one wasn't like that. It just never. No,
it never got better.
It never got better. And
so what did you do? What was it?
I did some legs.
Those are the worst.
But usually, like, I can kind of get into it. I'll just fall into it, and it started off bad, and it just continued to.
Well, legs are kind of like a strong point for you too, right? Like you enjoy squatting, you enjoy deadlifting, like all that stuff.
I do, and so that's why when it's not a good one for me, it's like, it's kind of down. But I got it done.
Good.
And the rest of the days. Plus we're gonna do some barbecue later, so
there you go. You earned that shit.
Yeah.
Well, we got to keep the wheels on point with 9/11 coming up. We got a lot of people.
Part of it was a stair climb today too. I did that. I started with it, warmed up, got into my workout, and then I ended with it. And it's tough. Yeah,
it's not easy. I did one last September. That was actually the first time I've ever been able to do like a 9/11 stair climb. Mm-hmm. So it was actually on my birthday, which was 9/9, and I did it. Sucked. It was horrible. Harder than I thought it would be. Yeah. Put my gear on and made it a point to, like, because I thought I showed up and realistically I was like, oh, there's gonna be other people there with gear on, and they said, oh, we got packs, so if people want to wear packs. So I was like, cool. So I put a pack on, gear on. I'm looking around like nobody else had their gear on. And I'm like, oh, shit. And then I had some guys from the jiu-jitsu team do it, We had like Big John, Clayton, my brother. I don't know if anybody else did it. I hope I'm not leaving somebody out. But props to all them because they went and put in some work. And so when we started going, I was like, oh, shit, I can't quit.
So when you had your stuff on and no one else was wearing anything, for a split second, did you think, I'll just take the stuff off?
No, not initially.
Okay.
But in the middle of it, yes, yeah. Right? Like in the middle of it, and that actually goes in line with what we're going to talk about today, right? Because in the middle of it, there was actually one other guy from Portland, probably in his 40s, not in the best shape, but you could tell he's like he's a firefighter, right? Yeah. He had the look.
Yeah.
And
what's the look?
The look is kind of like that dad bod,
okay.
Mustache.
Okay.
Not in shape, but definitely weathered. And
got some stickers in the truck.
Well, I didn't see his
department
truck,
tattoos.
Yeah, fire department tattoos. But
wearing a shirt from the station.
That he was, and he started it with all his gear on and the helmet and everything, and then he started stripping down.
Yeah. And
so when I saw him start stripping down, I'm already like, well, we were like halfway done. I'm like, I could do that now.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, that I did unzip.
Yeah.
Because it was like 92 degrees that day.
Still hot. Yeah.
And then I did take my helmet off and I was carrying my lid the whole, I think I would, once I got to I think you had to do, because it was 6 floors and then they calculated your steps down and around the building to equal like 110 floors. And so when I did it, I think I got to like 13 or 14 and I was like, I got to take this helmet off. So I took it off and I walked with it. But man, that heat, and I think that's one thing that goes underestimated is people don't realize how hot that gear is. It's meant to keep heat out, but it also keeps heat in.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So your body heat, once that starts elevating, you feel your heart racing. It's like being in a sauna, essentially. Yeah. So that's where it becomes important to...
It's very restricting. It's
it is.
Can give you that feeling of like...
anxiousness?
Yeah, it can.
Yeah.
Because you can't breathe and all the breath is hot air.
Right.
And the weight.
And that's the thing. It went through my head. I was like, I could put the pack off and just stay with my gear on.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, no, I gotta, when you think about what those guys did, I mean, they're superheroes. Yeah. 110 floors with gear, with tools, with equipment. I think that's the highest point of what they climbed, right? What they got to at one point. That was the whole story behind the 110.
Well, 110 was the 110 is what the building was, but they never made it to
Okay,
110.
they never made
Yeah,
it all the
it's
way
like
up
the
there.
70th and
Okay,
is somewhere
but I
around
mean,
there.
even that, dude. I mean, that's
And also with kind of like the mindset now, like what a high rise fire entails, and knowing that your efforts up there at that height, like trying to take your gear up there and stuff, that is real. I mean, it's more of
Yeah.
like we're trying to save lives, evacuate as much as you can, but like actual like firefight, like that's gonna be the odds of putting like that was
yeah,
futile efforts almost,
exactly.
but
they
that had
did
to be
it.
in your mind, like we're getting up there, like what are we gonna do when we get up there? It's like so much fire, then we don't have water up there, like
And that's what
are
I
we gonna
said. That's what I'm telling the guys in the academy is like, they went in and they're watching people jump out of these buildings, and because their only choice at that time was burn alive or jump, right?
Yeah.
And that's a decision I hope to God nobody ever has to face, but they did. And walking into that, knowing what they were walking into, that's hero shit.
And you have to know that every single one of them knew exactly what they were walking into. They weren't they were not like oblivious to the fact that like, well,
No.
I'm probably not gonna come out of this building.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, to a point, I think a lot of times we sign up to do the job, and that is like, oh yeah, I know the risks of it, but when you actually like sit down and look some things that happen on a weekly basis around the nation, like it's just, I hope to God it's not a matter of time before it hits us, but in a lot of cases that's what happens, right? It's when it's your time, and those guys, they could have backed away, they could have not gone in, they could have chose to make an excuse or find a reason, because there's plenty of reasons not to, but they went in and did their thing and tried to help as many, and I'm sure they helped a lot of people get out. Although they weren't able to save everybody, and they sacrificed themselves doing that, they did save some, and so that kind of goes along with what I wanted to talk about today, because I was listening to a podcast actually with Ed Milet and Inky Johnson. Mm-hmm. And for those of you that don't know who Inky Johnson is, he's a former Tennessee cornerback. He was a 5-star athlete. He was predicted to go in the first round. University of Tennessee, came from very humble beginnings. In fact, one of the interesting things that he stated about when he first got to Tennessee and why he was so excited was because it's the first time he had his own bed. He lived in I forget how many people he had in his family, but they were sleeping on floors and like a 1 or 2 bedroom house. And he had brothers and sisters. And he, when he got there, it was like, so his thing was like, I got to make it for my family, and that was his motivation and his drive. The last play of his senior year, he's already predicted to go first round.
Yeah,
it was some kind of bowl game. The last play of his career was 2 minutes left in the game, regular play. He goes to tackle somebody. He tackles him, and he instantly feels his body go limp, and he was paralyzed. He had his subclavian artery got sheared, spinal cord got damaged, and he woke up and he had no use of one side of his body. I don't want to speak to what side, because I forget, but this guy had to go through so much adversity, and he is one of the guys that I look up to because of the fact that dealing with that, we all like to say we prepare ourselves for situations where no matter what we face, we're going to be mentally stronger and mentally strong enough to go through that. And he's somebody that has not only become successful as like a motivational speaker, and he goes around the country and people, I'm sure pay him good amounts of money to talk about his story, but he's also somebody that in doing that has helped so many other people. And so where you have a lot of people that face a situation like that and it pretty much debilitates them, ends their life, so to speak, he didn't let that define him, And so one thing that he did say in that interview is champions do daily what others only are willing to do occasionally. And when he said that, it spoke to me. It spoke to me because in the position I'm in now, most of you guys that listen to the podcast know that I'm in the training division for our department, and we're really making a push to raise the standard. Not that the standard was necessarily a bad standard, but I feel that the bar could be raised. And so what I want to talk about today is kind of the mindset of when you are seeking greatness, when you are trying to be better, not letting other people's standards dictate yours, right? Not allowing other people's opinions, other people's thoughts, comments, lower the bar that you have set for yourself. Because unfortunately, we're all human beings. We all have. As much as I like to say I don't care what people think of me, we do, right? We do. We want people to respect us, not maybe necessarily because of our title, or we want people to respect us as men, as who we are. We want our families to look at us, and we want our wives to appreciate, our kids to appreciate. We want our colleagues to look at us like we can do, like we're capable of doing the job, right? And not only that, we oftentimes are faced with situations where maybe we get to a position or we get into a field and your standards are super high for yourself, but the standards of everybody else aren't, right? And that can be a difficult thing to deal with, because and a lot of times it's, okay, I can either go with the majority and go ahead and back off and lower my what I had wanted to do or what I had thoughts of doing to what everybody else does regularly, and so that I can be liked, so that I can get along.
Do you think it is difficult if it's a person that has a higher standard than everyone else and he's already doing that? Do you think he really cares about?
I think once people get to a point, such as like myself or you, where we're at in our lives now, I think, and I think it depends on a lot of things, right? But I think where we're at now, no, it's not a problem, to answer your question. But I think coming up through the ranks and doing things, I know that personally I felt some kickback, like when I was a firefighter 1.
Yeah.
And even though I had been in 10 years and was trying to do things, people look at you like, oh, you're trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Oh, why are you doing this? Like, even just working out,
yeah.
Like people think, oh, you're crazy, or you're too intense, or you're this or you're that. And, now I've gotten to a point where I know what our job entails. I know I've been on both sides. I've been the guy that was putting 100% effort outside of work into certain aspects of his life, but wasn't necessarily putting that same effort into the job. Right.
It's a little different though. So, cause your story, you were a firefighter 1 with a lot of experience.
Right.
But think about a firefighter 1 that's like got no experience, like brand new. So he's showing up, he or she's showing up, and that person is really gonna take note of what people say. And I'm put myself back in there because what you're talking about, it kind of just reminded me when I was still real new. I was already at Station 10 as a EMS 2, but I was like young in the department. And my whole career, like even in the academy, I showed up early. Like I always showed up early. And they would used to make fun of me for showing up early. Well, everyone except for who I was relieving, right?
Right. They loved
Yeah,
it.
they loved whoever that was that day was like, oh man, Tony's here, right? But it was almost like it was so. And this is one of the things in a job, right? Like people like to mess around, mess with you. If you let them know that it bothers you, like it's like blood in the water, right? The sharks are gonna attack. I just laugh about it and make a joke about it, right? It was almost kind of like I was my OCD, or I was like a Rain Man, right? I'd walk in early, and it was like a routine. Like for me, everything has always been like I'm at my best if I'm in a routine, whether that's studying, working out, whatever it is. If I have a routine, like at this time I'm gonna do this, at this time go to bed, at this time I'm gonna have my clothes ready, like then I'll win. Set myself up to win. If I don't have the routine, I'm just like out of control, right? Like my own vices will take over, right? And that was like me going to work. Like I'm gonna get there early, and I'd walk Station 10. I walk in, the blinds were always closed. I'd open the blinds and like walk to the back, relieve who I was gonna relieve. Like I got you, grab the radio, like I'm good to go. And they would kind of like make fun of me, like the Rain Man or whatever, like comes in, got to do. But like, I mean, that was, I knew I was gonna. They knew I was gonna be there. I'm gonna be there on time, early even, and ready to work. And most of the time, I'd be catching calls early and already ready to go. By the time that my crew started coming in, I was already been on duty for 30 minutes.
Right. And I think people do that subconsciously, because I think what happens is when they see people doing exceptional things, extraordinary things, or going above and beyond to do more than what others are doing, I think it kind of makes them subconsciously feel bad about their efforts, right? It's like, if I see you showing up to work early and wait, how often do you hear this, or have you heard this? I know I've heard it. It's like, hey, take a break, like slow down. Yeah. Like, hey, we got all 24 day. Hours. Yeah, we got all day to do this.
And that was what my point with that is, like, I didn't let it change. Like, and I was new. Like, I could have easily said, like, oh, they don't want me showing up early, I'll just show up like right at 8. My coworkers, they were like, what? There was always excuses, right? Oh, I got to drive through 3 school zones to get here. Or I got kids or whatever. Right. And I mean, I had kids, right? So, I mean, you're going to make any excuse that you want to make, right? But it didn't change. Like, I still showed up. I still did my thing. And, that was just, I wasn't going to let that change me.
But is that something that you had always had? Like, growing up, did you have that kind of discipline and that kind of outlook? Because I know I didn't.
No, I didn't. What happened to me, similar to your story too, is that I knew that the fire department was going to change my life, because I was like not finished with school, but done with school. You know what I mean? Right. Like, I was not going to finish. Like, I was done. Like, I was working a lot, and I was like, school. I started off like full-time school, part-time work, and as this evolved, it was like full-time work, part-time school.
Right.
And that was diminishing away. So when I got into the fire department, that was like, I won the lottery, like, right. In my eyes, like, ooh, this is something that they're going to, like, I'm going to go to school with them. They're going to pay me. They're going to teach me. And this is what I'm going to do.
But like, see, that's something I don't think a lot of people have, as far as like, you got the job, you knew the opportunity you had in front of you. You knew that it was something that could change your life.
I wasn't going to mess it up. I knew, right? I took it very, very serious. And so I was young. And so, cause I was like a college student, right? But I was living at home. Like, I didn't have at that time I didn't have a girlfriend. I wasn't married, nothing. So like I put everything into it. I went all in, because like, I can't mess it up. So I had to pass. I was, you're in charge of the academy now. It's all school. Initially, you're learning, going to class, taking tests. Physically, like, I was going to work out every morning. I was going to do all of that. And I was in shape, more of like a runner, like running all the time. But I would lift weights. I'd do all of it. I was early to the academy, always like the first one in the parking lot, waiting for the instructors to come up, open up,
Right.
But I knew that I felt like when I was I was like ready for the day. Like, I could, like, stuff that I was looking over stuff from the night before, getting things ready. Same thing with showing up to work. You get to work early, you relieve the person. You don't catch a call right away. It's like, hey, what do we got going on today? What's up? You're already ready,
Right.
As a captain, is very important. As a battalion chief, even more so. I get to talk to the off-going, like, what's going on? What issues do we have? What do I need to take care of? What's like high on the priority list? What can I wait till later on in the day? Like, that just sets me up, as opposed to running in. That guy's got to go. Here's the phone. Here's the keys. See you later. Call me if you need something.
And that's what blows my mind when we talk specifically about the department, is you got guys that promote up the ranks and aren't willing to raise that standard, right? It's one thing when you're showing up and you're part of the crew, but when you're leading the crew and you're showing up late,
everybody's there, you're the last one.
You're the last one. That's not a good thing. Yeah. That's not a good thing for a lot of reasons.
And so how many times have you heard, like, hey man, my shift starts at 8:00? Like,
exactly.
Like, you could easily fall back on that.
Well,
what does that say about?
Well, and good thing about it is, usually you don't see too many of those guys promoting up, right? Usually when they have that mindset, they kind of stay they don't want the responsibility. Then again, you got some guys that just want the title, and so when they do promote, whether it be to captain or chief, or battalion chief or assistant chief or whatever the case, they don't take that responsibility to heart, and they kind of just do the things the way they've been doing. Because let's face it, there's a lot of guys out there that are really good test takers, and they they take the test, they ace it, and they get the position.
Yeah.
But when I think sometimes things get lost with the importance of leading from the front in those aspects.
Yeah.
And that's why I say when you have a goal, when you have a standard, whether it be your family or your friends or your coworkers or whatever, like, it is so important that you hold that line and you hold that standard for yourself, because what it's going to do is number one, you're going to get buy-in. Even the people that don't like what you're doing or think you might be a little hardcore, if you're consistently doing what you say you're going to do, then they're going to get that. They're forced to respect you. There's no way they can't respect you, because you're doing what you said you're going to do. You're putting your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
Right.
Even people that don't like their supervisor at work, like, can say that, oh, he's good at what he does, if he is, right? Like, if the ones that are consistent, that are like, well, he's hard, but he's good, so
right.
You can't deny that. It makes it undeniable, is what you're saying.
And I think that's the thing when you run into situations where you are trying to be that change factor. And we talk about it all the time. Leadership has no rank. It doesn't take a certain badge or a certain position in order to be a leader. So, it is important that when you get to that position, that you uphold the standards that you set for yourself. And by doing that, hopefully you'll get that buy-in and people will want to jump in. Yeah. and watch you or join in with you as you're leading.
And most of the time they do. I mean, I've seen it. I mean, it's just kind of like the culture that we do is like, however, it's like if you have multiple of those people that are holding that standard a little bit higher or like above the minimum standard, everyone kind of buys in and they start jumping on board.
Well, because nobody wants to be the worst guy, yeah. Right? Nobody wants to be, and I say nobody, and I'm wrong, because there are people out there that just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
They don't care, and it sucks because I mean, we've got friends in the department that man, outside of work, they're freaking awesome. They're good dudes. They got your back, but when it comes down to just being a good coworker, they're lacking severely.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's the concept of sometimes, like, if you have a person that was like going to get things done, like that person you're describing will let that person go. Like, they'll take care of it. They're gonna it might be your partner,
right?
And like, hey, he'll take care of everything. Like, I ain't got to worry about
it.
And it's like, you shouldn't, as a coworker, you shouldn't be like, I'm not gonna.
I don't want to leave it all on you.
Yeah, let's share the load, because it just gets old,
Yeah, and especially if we're friends.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want you to look down, like we talked about the way people look at you. It's like, I don't want my buddy to look at me as a shitty fireman or a shitty captain. Like, I want him to respect me, not because of the rank, but because I'm willing to do the things that I expect other people to do. And somebody took a picture the other day, and I didn't even realize it, but we had our brothers from Pressa Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, come over the other day to do an open mat.
On Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday. And Aurelio, he always, the leader of that team, the owner, one of the founders and, godfathers of Jiu-Jitsu here in Corpus. Yeah. He always grabs a mop after practice.
Yeah.
Like, and I'll tell him, no, he's like, no, I got it.
Yeah.
And so, I grabbed a mop, he grabbed the other mop, we start going, and somebody took a picture and they sent it to me, and I didn't know they were taking a picture. And it's just me and him mopping on opposite ends of the gym, and he just put respect, and to be honest, I feel bad because hopefully they're not listening to this, because I don't have their number saved, so I don't even know who it was who sent it. But I always make an effort as a leader to be willing to do the things that I ask my followers, my subordinates, my students, whatever you want to call them. I always make an effort to be willing to do the things that I ask of them. And that's why I do work out. There's certain days where I don't want to work out with the cadets. We've got our thing, our routine, our program, and working out with them kind of throws a wrench into that. But sometimes you got to jump in there and you got to, if you want them to push, you got to show them that you're willing to push.
Yeah.
You know, you can't be asking a guy to show up early to work if you're getting there late.
Oh, yeah.
You can't be asking, and you can actually, right? Like you can, but what does that say about you? What does that say about your character? What does that say about you as a leader? You know, we get into this mindset where we always let the rookies do everything, and yes, they do, right? That's part of the hierarchy. You want the probies and the rookies, and that's just part of the growth as a fireman. We've all been there, we've all done it, and you want those guys to not become entitled, especially in today's day and age where everybody's entitled, right? You want those guys to understand what it is to be on a team, what it is to work your way up, and yes, you are going to do the tasks that maybe aren't the funnest tasks to do, but as you start doing them, like, people are going to respect you. They're going to appreciate you, even though they might not tell you it's appreciated. And as a leader, you have to be willing to show. I was listening to something and they said, you know, I haven't had the opportunity yet to lead a crew out in the field, but I was listening to one podcast and they were talking about how they don't just tell the guys clean the restrooms. They go and they show them how they want the restrooms cleaned.
Oh, dude, that's something that's like, I could tell this story. I could tell you the exact person. He's in light duty right now. You can tell him when you go back on Monday. Zach Gunning, Station 1. So the soaps, now we have hand dispenser. We have like the dial soap, pump soaps. We used to have the lava brick soap.
Yeah.
So when you cleaned the bathrooms and the lava soap is what you use for hand soap in a bathroom in the fire station across the city, is that every morning you had to, like, there was a tri-fold paper towel that was folded a certain way, and the lava soap sat on top of that towel, that paper towel. And so, of course, from the day before, it was all soggy because they were washing it in.
Yep.
So, you know, you wipe the sink down, comment powder, wipe the sink down, and then you grabbed a brand new multi-fold towel, folded it a certain way, and you put the dry lava soap on top of that. It was very specific on how, and we don't do that anymore.
Right.
You know, you tell them
We don't
clean
need
the
to.
bathrooms, you know,
Yeah.
and they just like do what they think is, but it used to be very specific, you know, Windex on the mirrors, like things were done the certain way. And, you know, every generation talks about the other generation, the new generation. They don't do it. It's not like it used to be or whatever. But there is some truth to that. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's, you know, any better or worse. There's, you know, advantages to everything. But yeah, there's definitely some change.
But you were talking about Zach. So what?
Zach was the one that showed me. He's like,
Oh,
hey, you got to
okay.
get
He
the
showed
new.
you.
He showed me.
Okay.
He was Station 1. He had been Station 1
he's
forever.
been in.
I was brand new. You know, Station 1. Just all the new guys used to go through ones. And Station 1, he's like, hey, when you clean the bathroom, this is how you do it. And he was just firefighter 1. He wasn't like the captain or anything. He was just telling me, one firefighter telling it with a little more time, telling the other firefighter, like, hey, this is how you clean the bathrooms. This is what they expect.
Right.
And so, man, I took that with me. Every bathroom I went to after that with a little towel and the deal, and that's how it was done.
And
you know?
that is how it should be done, right? It's hard when you're a captain and you're expected. I mean, you got a lot of duties. You got a lot of administrative, you know, paperwork that you got to stay on top of, and, you know, the roster.
Yeah, it wasn't the captain. It was like a senior guy that's going to show the other guy, you know,
but
this is what they want.
But that's the thing is, like, that's what is nice about having a good crew or good team members.
Yeah.
Because they're willing to they're able to do those things, and that frees you up. But you also, as the leader, have to make sure that you have those guys squared away. Because if they're squared away, then you can come in, and when you do have that new guy there, you can say, hey, show him the ropes. You don't even have to explain what you mean by that.
And there was some pride in that, because as a new guy at once back then, you had to drive the light and air. Well, on our shift, like I was A at that time. C shift had their own light and air driver, whoever the new guy would take the light and air anywhere in the city, right? And then if you got back, like there was a cascade system. You know, it gets complex, but it's a cascade system. We had a pump station in the back, and you had to charge the cascade system. And there's a process on how you did that, which bottle you did first, and all that. So Zach showed me that, like, hey, in case you take the light and air in the middle of the night, Like you're gonna have to come back and you're gonna have to load it by yourself, like charge it up by yourself. This is how you do it or whatever. It's like, wake me up. Like if it's gonna be, it's your first time, right? And so sure enough, man, fire like somewhere on the north side, and I'm taking off in the light by myself there's no GPS. Like I'm with the map, like trying to look it up, like where I got lost. You finally get there. Where's Light? I can hear him on the radio. Where's Light in there? It's like I'm coming.
Yeah.
And so I get back to the station and there's like one guy awake, and I was like, hey, can you help me with the Cascade system? And there was pride in that showing, because it's like the first question, Zach didn't show you how to do that? It's like, no, he didn't. He even said wake him up. But since you're awake, can you show me? I just want to double check me to make sure. Oh, okay. Like he showed you. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is how you do it. I can do it by myself. But like they were going to get in his ass if it was like, if I didn't know what, it was like not my fault,
Right. And that was how, Randy was really good at that. Whenever, I was at the station I was at, my captain would always, he knew that his crew was solid. We had, a good driver that was very knowledgeable of the truck.
Yeah.
From, the inner workings of it, the engine, all the way to, the daily maintenance and inspection and everything, and to the tools on it, what every tool was used for and where everything was, right? And so when it would come to something such as, hey, show the rookie the truck, okay, we're going to send him to this guy, right? Because that's kind of his specialty.
Confidence that he's going to show him, and he's going to show him
Cover
the right
everything.
way, not just make up his own stuff as to what he thinks. Like this is what we do here,
Right. And that's why it is important. But if you're not willing, if you come into a situation and you're not willing to do it yourself,
or what about the guy that says, "It's not my job. That's your job to show him." Because those are out there too. Because I would rather sit in the chair and play on my phone than have to go show this new guy how to do his job.
Right.
Like why I'm not his instructor.
And that's why it's so important to keep that standard high, because we get a lot of guys, and I see it in the academy, where some guys come in and they're already squared away. They're either pre-military or they're either born with it. I haven't seen too many. There's been a couple of very young guys, 20, 21 years old, and their daddies taught them right. And they come in and they do everything. They're self-motivated. They don't need to be told. In fact, they're asking, do you need us to do anything? Do you want us to do, messaging and just, they'll get an email and they'll respond before I even get to text them.
Yeah.
Do you want, we had one that was
volunteering take over that.
Well, there was a one that was actually volunteering for the, something recently. I forgot what it was, but they were volunteering, and I get a text like 5 minutes later and they're like, sir, do you want us? And they're already done with their volunteer hours. They don't have to. Yeah. But the leadership in that group, we've got a captain and a co-captain, and both of them are always taking the reins and leading the charge in the sense of they're not waiting for us, for myself, or Camps here or Chief Bellew to tell them to, hey, we need you guys to do this. They're and that makes our job a lot easier, because we know they're squared away. If I can't make an event, I know I have 100% faith that if I assign this group a task, they're going to show up, they're going to look right, they're going to act right, and I'm not going to be getting any phone calls from the mayor, from, Chief. I wouldn't be getting calls from the mayor, but, it trickles on down. Yeah. Chief saying, hey, man, what the heck? We had these guys over there, and they were exactly, they were acting a fool. They look like crap. Yeah. And part of that, though, is myself and Captain Sierra holding ourselves in a certain manner and expecting them to meet that standard. Yeah. And that's what I've told them. I say, some of you guys have these standards for yourself, but these standards aren't the standards that we're now preaching for our department. And what I want is for them to go out and for them to have that impact, and for them to be those guys. And we tell them, I don't care who's doing anything, who's training, who's, if somebody tells you, oh, you don't have to do that, you just politely tell them, oh, it's okay, I don't mind, and you get the job done. If you know it's something that needs to be done, because people will try to bring you down to their level, because it makes them very uncomfortable that they're not doing what they're supposed to be and you're willing to, right? I'm guilty of it. I could say, even for studying, I would tell people all the time, like, there's no way, this guy said he's read like 9 hours. There's no way you could read 9 hours. Till you want something bad enough where you find yourself like reading for 12 hours. It's like, oh shit, well, maybe I was wrong, Yeah. But I really wanted to preach and kind of harp on that today because, you know, and I just came from church and we were talking about it in church with all the craziness and stuff going on in the world, you know, with all of the things that are being accepted as the norm and all the things that are getting pushed on us and our children to accept. It's like, we have a standard as Christians, and I'm not the spokesperson for it. I'm working on it. Today was really eye opening. I really felt convicted, and I plan on making some big changes. But we cannot lower our standard, and in the sense of without getting too religious, in the sense of the Bible, we cannot just start picking what we think is appropriate or what society has coined or termed or changed out of what is supposed to be the word of God in order to accommodate everybody else, you know. And it's funny when you look at that and then you look at everything else that goes along with being a fireman. It's like it falls all in line. There's certain things, right? That you have to do. And I just told the guys the other day, I said, you know, firefighting's funny because it's not that hard, like, to stand out and be a badass, right? What do you? And I told him, I said, what do you consider a badass?
Well, today it's not.
And that's the thing. Yeah. And today's not, right? But why? Because the bar has been lowered and lowered and lowered, and it keeps getting lowered. We
talked about that.
So the thing is, and I'm telling the guys that are on light duty, some of these guys been in 20 years. Yeah. Some of these guys been in, you know, 2 years. And I'm telling them, I say, it's not hard. What do you consider a badass firefighter, right? A guy that shows up to work 30 to 15, even 15 is pushing it, but like 15 to 30 minutes early. First thing he does is put his gear on the truck and checks out his equipment. Then he checks the rig to make sure everything is squared away and where it should be. Then after that, he goes inside and grabs a broom, grabs a mop, cleans up, then does maybe an hour of training or studying in the morning, has his lunch, does another hour of training or studying in the afternoon, and then in between there, he's making calls. And he's able to perform the task on those calls, whether it be on the medical side of things or on the fire ground. He's able to perform them efficiently. That's a badass.
Yeah.
And that's just doing your job. Yeah. That's not doing
we say
anything.
What guys that are at the station, they go to another station for a shift or whatever, and it's like they have fire, or, you know, a task, and it's like, man, everyone thought that I did a good job. This is a recent conversation. And it's like, and you just did what you were supposed to, right? And you did a great job. Yep. You know, so one of two things, right? They either like are really horrible, and right. Your minimum, your standard is higher than what theirs is, or it's like, man, you can shine by just doing what you're supposed to do. And that's why it's like easy. And you hear a lot of these people say it now, that it's like, if you are a hard worker, the hardest worker in the room, if you are willing to grind and just put in the work, like, man, you're going to do great.
Yeah, I mean, just with us, right? You think, and one of the cadets asked me, "Who would you say is like the fittest guy, like in the department?" And I said, "Man, there's so many different levels of fitness in the department. There's guys that are super strong. There are guys that are fast. There are guys that have crazy endurance. There are guys that have everything. But in reality, to me, a badass is just somebody that takes the job seriously enough to where they're working out on their own to better themselves at least once every 2 days off."
Yeah.
You know, you're in the gym 3 to 4 days a week, and you're working out with the purpose and with the intention that someday that moment, that 5% moment might come where you have to act and earn the title of being a hero, and you're ready to answer the call, right? You're ready. It's the fourth quarter. You got the ball. Yeah. What are you going to do? Yeah. Right. And so, you know, I think we've gotten to a point today where there's so many people that are just willing to meet the minimum standard that sometimes it is hard. It is almost, it's aggravating. It can be kind of, it can kind of break you down if you're not strong enough, or if you've been in for a certain time. I know some great captains that got to a certain point with leadership, and this is several years ago. Yep, I know. But get to a certain point with leadership where they're saying, "Hey, this subordinate of mine isn't doing it," and they just you know, help him do the best you can, and they don't do anything about this guy that's not performing, right? And so then they throw their hands up and say, you know what, whatever, and then they lower their standard. And that's the most, I think that's the hardest part, because I'm talking right now, I'm a new captain. I've been doing this since February. You know, I'm definitely, even though I've got 17 years out in the field, you know, and I've seen myself in a leadership role outside of work and even within the job, before I got the badge, there's still a long time for me to hold this line, right? Because I have this standard and I can't have it now and then say 10 years from now, oh, I've already been doing this for 10 years. I can afford to throttle back, because that's when the complacency starts to set in.
It's called complacency. That is.
But it's so easy to do in our line of work, right? Because you make fire after fire. You know how to, you know, you're, especially on the medical side of things, you know your box, you check it out all the time. And it's like that one day comes where you were just being complacent and things hit the fan and you're not prepared.
Yeah.
You know, and fortunately we haven't had an incident where somebody being unprepared has caused any kind of, you know, line of duty death or anything like that. But the possibility is out there. It can happen, you know. And so I think it's super important that we always try to maintain the professionalism, and the motivation and the drive to just be better.
Yeah.
That's as simple as it is.
There's so many things too, like when it comes to like being complacent. There's so in our job, it's like, you know, going to alarm calls and not getting dressed out. You know, not checking out your stuff. Like, so it's so easy. No, there's not really anyone except yourself to hold you accountable. I mean, your captain knows, like, hey, we're gonna check out the trucks, but does he go and see, like, you turn your air pack on and actually, like, so you're the only one to hold yourself accountable for doing that. You know whether you checked your mask out or not.
Right.
You get a good seal every morning, whatever. Like, so how easy is it to like, oh, I haven't checked my air pack out in 6 months, and then you need it. You know? And I mean, that's just a catastrophe.
And I mean, I've been in situations where I've gone to work, and because I've had these things happen, it made me make sure not to be complacent in those areas. But I've gone to work and they had a fire from the night before, and I go to check the bottle and and it's not it's not connected.
Oh yeah,
you know,
or they
so
swapped
I go
it
to
out,
turn it on. They swapped it out, but it's not connected. So, you know, if I was to have made a fire in that situation, then shit, I throw that air pack on. I'm definitely gonna delay getting in there and putting the fire out. And if there's somebody in there, that's a life safety issue. And now I'm delaying the rescue because I didn't check out my gear.
Yeah.
Right. And nobody else might. How do you say this? I might not be affected by that, but somebody else will be. And that's where things like training regularly, studying up on your craft. There's always new things, new techniques, new methods. And people say, "Oh, you don't have to reinvent the wheel." No, but there's certain things that you can do to make the job easier and be more efficient, and not work as hard. And it's little things like, you know, when was the last time you looked at the way you move a hose line, the way you do forcible entry?
They change, you know, more efficiency comes out, and, you know, you have to be on top of that. You have to be a student of the trade at all times.
And we're fortunate with the social media platforms that we have now, because, man, you can go on there and scroll and you can find so many different methods. Yeah. And of course you got to be careful. I was listening to the Standard and they were talking about, they had this video and it was guys in Europe and they were doing a search. And they busted out like a walking stick. They show the guys searching, right? First of all, they're standing up while they're searching, and then they show them it's got some music, some cool little, you know, graphics to it, and then they stop and then they bust out a walking stick, and the guy's standing up and he's like got a walking stick with a tennis ball for search. And the guys were making fun of him because they're like, this must be in Europe. I mean, and they had the Euro helmets, you know, and it's like, but when the hell do we start searching standing up? And I've seen it. You know, we have training evolutions where some of our guys go in and it's that practice like you play mentality. If you're going to practice like this environment is not hot and you know you can breathe the cold smoke that we got, the fake stuff. If you know you can breathe it in, then when it hits the fan, I mean, that's
You're
going to
not
be
gonna
your
be ready.
first walking in and search. No, we search on the ground. You have to be on the ground. You have to have an efficient pattern of searching. And something that they brought up that I thought was really cool was search like it's your like it's the most intense game of hide and seek you've ever had.
Yeah.
You know, you see these guys, they go and they search and they sweep the floor, and or they use their tool, and it's like they're going just, oh, there's nothing here, there's nothing there.
Kind of going through the motions.
It's
instead of
like,
you're
no,
like,
fucking
you
act like
focus.
somebody's done. It's
Yeah.
like you have seconds to find somebody
Yeah.
before that's
Yeah.
it, you know. But that once again goes along with you having to be able to stand up for yourself and stand up for a standard in a profession that all of us should be, you know, consistently and trying to make better.
Yeah.
You know, not just saying, okay, I've been doing this for this amount of time, I know my job. No, you got to keep practicing.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything.
Masking up, you know, search patterns, hose line movement, you know, flowing and moving while flowing, using, you know, your big water lines. Like, those are all things that, yeah, we should all know how to do them, but it's not just can you do it, it's can you do it well, can you do it fast, and can you do it in a stressful situation, because that's when it's going to matter, you know. And don't allow what other people feel, or don't allow what other people say about you to lower the standards that you've set for yourself. I mean, I used to have people, you know, personally in my life, I don't go to strip clubs, I don't go to those places. You know, me and the wife, we don't even go to bars by ourselves. That's a standard we have for us, right? But you know how many times that I've had guys talk shit when they're like, oh, we're having a bachelor's party, and, you know, oh, we're going to meet at this bar or that bar. And I'm like, I'm out. And they're like, oh, like, get your balls back. And I'm like, dude, I just, number one, I don't see anything. I'm not going to go waste money in that. I'm not like an 18-year-old horny guy. But number two, it's like, no, I've got a standard that I have for myself, my family, for my marriage, that I'm not willing to lower because you don't think it's cool, or because you don't think it's right, you know. And the people that respect you and that see your desire to be better aren't going to try and drag you down. Also, they're not going to try because they know that no matter what they try, it's not going to affect
you
you.
know what it reminds me of too is drinking. Like, you know, as I got older, man, drinking is like, I like to wake up in the morning and work out. It's harder to work out when you like tie one on. So it's like you hang out with friends that like to drink, and it's like, why aren't you gonna have a drink? It's like, I'm fine, man. I don't have a drink. Like, I want to wake up tomorrow morning and be fine. You know?
That's a hard one for me. It's been, and I actually, it's funny you say that because something that I'm holding myself to is so I've been drinking, you know, since I could drink, right?
And even before.
And even before, yeah, definitely before. But you know, that's something that I haven't gone 30 days without drinking. And I don't drink
even
heavily.
Even during fight camps and stuff.
I'm lying. Yeah, I
Cut
would.
it out.
But no, towards the end, shit. My last fight camp, I was getting hammered and then going and working out. But I was going through some shit at that time, so you know, it wasn't the best thing. But there would even be times in fight camp, and this is where we listen to other people, right? So I listened to Ronda Rousey. And I was watching her podcast, greatest woman fighter in the world at the time, like killing everybody. And she's like, yeah, after practice, I'll go and I'll enjoy a good beer. Like, you know, it's good for your mental game. And so that instantly gave me
you heard what you wanted to hear.
I heard what I wanted to hear. That gave me my excuse to deviate from my plan. Yeah. And I was like, well, if she's doing it, well, yeah, but she's also a fucking judo Olympian, you know? And so I guess point being is yeah. So this is the first time I told Ashley, I'm like, hey, and I'm not holding her to it. She's a teacher. She deals with a lot of stress, so she can have a wine if she wants. But I told her I'm not, and it's hard for me. Yeah. It is hard because there's days where I go from work to the gym, and then coming home and having 2 beers, and it just kind of like relaxes you, you know. But I've told myself I'm not gonna drink. I'm not gonna do it. And that's just something. It might not seem like a big deal to other people, but when it's been part of your life forever,
Yeah.
It is definitely a challenge. And I know it's not going to be easy, because I know I'm going to have those days where I just want to come home and have a cold beer after work, after practice, whatever. And I'm not going to, because this is something that a goal that I've set for myself. Now, I'm not saying I'm never going to drink. I already said, we got a trip planned to the Astros game at the end of, what is it, like September? It's like the 1st. So I guess it's going to be under a month, but I already said no drinking. So that's something that I hold. And whether friends are telling me, even now, like you said about drinking, and I haven't, ever since we had the baby, I'm not comfortable with drinking to the point of intoxication. Like I'll go and I'll drink a couple beers and I'll feel a little good, but I'm not going to, I don't want the feeling that there's an emergency or something happens and now I can't take the baby to go do what, to the hospital, or I can't perform the way I need to perform to protect my family, but even then there's been times where people are like, you don't want a shot? And then they start talking shit like, oh, come on, you're being a drag, and the one thing I can say about that is it's gotten to the point now where I don't even want to hang out with those people. I don't want to hang out with those people because I know that's all I'm going to hear is, oh, how I'm a bore, or I'm ruining everybody's time. And it's hard, because then, even though you're not ruining anybody's time,
I don't care what you do. You can drink. You can get as tore up as you want.
Have a good time. And just because you're not acting a fool,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, he's ruining the time. And then they put that thought on everybody else. So now everybody else starts looking at you like you're being a drag, but you still got to hold the bar. Right? You got to hold that line, not let anybody influence you. Yeah, that's all there is to it, man. When it comes down to it, great people, champions, do things regularly that other people aren't willing to do, and whether that's waking up and working out, whether that's reading your Bible before you go to work, before you go to bed, whether that's studying for X amount of time, whether that is core values like just being faithful to your wife. Like if you're hanging around with a bunch of people that are just trying to constantly get you to do things that you shouldn't be doing, or that are going to affect your progress, then you just got to cut those people out. And the older I get, it's funny, the older I get, the more I realize how I don't really need anybody. I don't really need anyone that isn't going to add value to my life. That isn't going to support my goals, that isn't going to see the ambition that I have within myself and encourage me. If you're all for it and you want to go and get hammered and you want to drink, but you're still like, hey bro, good job, like keep killing it. Yeah, come on. Yeah, I'll keep you on my team. But if you are dragging me down or chastising me or berating me and trying to make me feel like I'm abnormal because I'm not willing to fall in line with the majority is doing, I don't need you in my life. And sometimes that's a hard decision to make, because sometimes we look around at our friend circle and we realize, man, they haven't really done anything with themselves, right? So why am I gonna worry about what they say? Why am I gonna worry about how they feel? And it's super important that when you go to work and you have those goals and you have those desires, no matter what the rank is, because unfortunately it will come from the top on down. You'll have people that, are captains leading a crew and giving you shit because you want to be studying, or you want to be asking questions, or you want to be, and thankfully within our department, I don't think we have a lot of those, but they are out there. And that's why I tell the cadets, like, when I say be the change, go out there, be the guy that is hungry to learn, be the guy that's hungry to drill, be the guy that's hungry to get the team on a path together, because your influence, even though you may not have the time in, you can still greatly influence those around you with your actions. So, I just wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit today, man. I think that's something that sometimes people are faced with, whether they're new in a position or they're guiding people that aren't necessarily the most enthusiastic about raising the bar for themselves. But don't let that stop you, because in the end, number one, you're going to be respected by them, but number two, you're going to have the skill set, you're going to have the abilities that whenever shit hits the fan, everybody's going to be looking towards you. Yeah. They may be giving you shit about you may be getting shit for not eating not eating what everybody else is eating, or working out too much, or being stuck in your books, or wanting to train when it's hot outside. But guess what? On that fire ground, when shit hits the fan and they need somebody to rescue somebody, everybody's going to be looking at you. Yeah. And that's the guy you want to be. That's the guy I want to be. Yeah. And so no matter what anybody else says, I'm going to keep that line, hold that line for myself, and never look back. Yeah. So, well, T, that's all I have for today, man. You got anything else you want to?
I think the only thing I'll add is that, like, because we're talking about that new guy. So if you're the senior guy, if you're that's not the captain, but he's part of the crew, and someone's coming to you and is like, hey, can you show me this? Can you teach me something about this? Take that opportunity and show them. If you don't know, that's fine. You're going to learn by teaching him, looking it up, or asking the captain, or whatever it is. You're making, that person is making you better. You're making them better. And it'll just, make for a better crew. That's
what I've always said about teaching, man. When you're able to teach, it's training, right? There's a lot of times where I'll go over something and then I'll teach it. And in that teaching, I'm learning more about it. You start to pick up on the intricacies of things.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu a lot. See showing stuff and it's like, man, how do you know that? Like,
and that's what it is. It's like when you're going 100 miles an hour, or you're training hard, or you're actually like rolling and fighting,
reacting. Different than like trying to get a move.
When you slowly break it down and you get to feel and you get to see the little details that get missed when you're going full speed. And so that's what I've always said about teaching, about training. It allows you to sharpen your tools and become so good that you can do it blindfolded. You can do it without rehearsing it. You can just go in and do it. And in our line of work, we don't have the opportunity to get a second chance a lot of the time. Our second chance is acknowledging that we're deficient in this area, working on it, so that when we get the opportunity to save a life, we can act and earn that title of hero that so many people bestow upon us. So thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate the love, appreciate the support, and we'll be back in a couple weeks with another podcast. Till next time, don't forget, charge that line.